PhD's mission is to build a bridge between Southeast Asia and the United States to prevent human trafficking. PhD empowers individuals, organizations, and governments to tackle the root causes of human trafficking through direct support and technical assistance. PhD uses its expertise and networks to promote best practices and inspire sustainable solutions in the movement to prevent human trafficking. Statistics vary, but millions of men, women, and children are trafficked throughout the world each year for labor and sexual exploitation. It is the third largest criminal enterprise after drug and arms trafficking. Hoping for a better future for themselves and their families, they're lured by false promises into a life of slavery and deprivation. PhD believes that it is time we take a collective stand against this horrendous crime against humanity. Since 1999, our team has been working in Southeast Asia and the U.S. to empower individuals and organizations striving to bring an end to this inhumanity. Our theory of change is inspired by the words of an Aboriginal activist group. If you have come to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. PhD is honored to play a supporting role as we work with and empower current and future leaders who are working steadily to successfully achieve systemic change from within their own communities. We at PhD strongly believe that human trafficking is largely preventable by employing hard-headed, non-moralistic approaches to address root causes of human suffering. It is possible to prevent human trafficking by avoiding band-aid solutions and instead combining long-term thinking and planning while actively and critically evaluating the impact of development aid on local communities. The litmus test for us is whether help is offered in ways that empower and amplify local voices and actions or detracts from them. This has not always been a welcome perspective in conversations with some organizations and funding agencies. Nevertheless, we constantly ask our local partners how can we best help support their work on the front lines as they further develop organic solutions to complex and challenging problems. PhD's objectives are to raise more funding for partner organizations and relaunch successful pilot programs. We are hoping to locate new office or workspace similar to American University's donation of office space to PhD for 4 years. We also wish to launch our Rapid Report and Response program, R3. PhD needs resources to accomplish all of these objectives. We're nimble and highly adaptive regardless of the economic climate. We use technology in ways that other organizations haven't taken full advantage of. For example, video blogging, data collection in real time, ultimately forming a useful database of information on human trafficking, and the ability to make future predictions of trafficking in order to prevent it. Below is a list of examples of how PhD has leveraged its connections and opportunities to make an impact in the anti-trafficking field and to make PhD successful. We've designed an innovative and effective social media networking site combined with a video-based fundraising campaign. We've maintained partnerships with 5 leading Southeast Asian trafficking prevention and human rights organizations. You can see our program videos on our website and on YouTube. We have raised over $2,500,000 in private donations to PhD and its partners in Southeast Asia. We've developed a Rapid Report and Response, R3 system, which is now in beta testing in Thailand and soon in the United States, to map and track human trafficking cases. R3 crowdsources information from first responders and grassroots organizers using SMS and new technologies. We've hosted a conference in Thailand, including NGOs and senior government and police officials, to vet PhD's latest R3 pilot project and to tailor it to the needs of people on the ground. We've conducted annual 3 to 6 week accredited human rights and threats to human security in Southeast Asia and Thailand, research study tours in Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam for U.S. citizens, academics, philanthropists, and NGO practitioners. We have secured in-kind donations valued at $700,000. We've managed a group of pro bono attorneys and consultants from 4 law firms in Washington, D.C. We have provided internship placements for more than 50 American and international students with career interests in human trafficking and human rights. We have planned and conducted a congressional tour for a delegation of high-ranking Thai officials from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to meet with members on Capitol Hill to discuss Thailand's anti-trafficking policies. We've organized workshops called Next Steps in Anti-Trafficking Advocacy and Activism for Thai students and academics at Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok, Thailand. We refuse to quit when we don't have adequate resources, staff, or are pitted against larger organizations with more resources. We are scrappy and happy. We attract quality volunteers, board members, and pro bono services. We work internationally and nationally, so we have perspectives from many sides of the movement to combat and prevent human trafficking. PHT has raised over $2 million for its partner organizations, which have used the money to protect street children and youth at risk of human trafficking, and to give men and women viable economic options. PHT has brought hundreds of Westerners to Thailand to help them understand both the issues and the work being done at the grassroots level to address them. PHT has also been involved in many legal issues, including securing representation for human trafficking victims and advocating legal reform in the U.S. and in Southeast Asia. For example, PHT was integral in passing the first law on human trafficking called the TVPA 2000. Some of the metrics of success for our organization are the number of trainings completed and long-term relationships built in the field where we've gained allies, the number of scholarships given to our partner organization's students. Prevent Human Trafficking runs a scholarship program in Mae Sarang, northern Thailand. The scholarship promotes education for underserved children. The scholarship's main intent is to provide access to education to disadvantaged children, some of whom could otherwise become vulnerable to being trafficked. Although the scholarship's main intent is to provide access to education, it indirectly works as a prevention measure for trafficking. The children that these scholarships support are especially vulnerable to this type of exploitation. Another metric is the number of graduates from our summer program who go on to do a wide range of human rights work, research, and publications, both nationally and internationally. Prevent Human Trafficking's summer program, running since 1999, offers unique access to some of Southeast Asia's preeminent scholars, activists, organizers, and government officials working at the forefront of the global anti-trafficking movement. And finally, R3, Quality Data Generation. Collection and completeness of trafficking data. Data impact. Elimination of duplicated efforts by law enforcement and NGOs, and focusing resources responding to suspected incidents, analyzing patterns, and becoming more sophisticated in prevention over time. Platform adoption. Number of users and institutions purchasing or renting our data. Prevent Human Trafficking was created in 1999 to seek justice for oppressed and exploited populations. I was born and raised in a cult, and I have intimate personal knowledge of what it means to live without freedom of any kind. I also know the power of human resilience and the sheer strength of will to overcome horrendous situations. There are many similarities between cult victims and survivors and human trafficking victims and survivors. Some of the shared experiences revolve around the use of force, fraud, and coercion by individuals who seek to control and manipulate others for their own gain. I founded Prevent Human Trafficking because I was convinced that my life experiences put me in a unique position to help combat and prevent human trafficking and exploitation, as I truly understand the dynamics. I've put my heart and soul into establishing and directing Prevent Human Trafficking since its inception, and I'm determined to carry this work forward. PHT was the second anti-trafficking organization established in the United States, preceding the first U.S. law on anti-trafficking. It is little known that we have the deepest reach and access in Southeast Asia, particularly Thailand, one of the major hubs of human trafficking in the world. The results of PHT's efforts can be divided into two parts. One, the impact we have had on key activists and partner organizations. We have helped several organizations by documenting and promoting their work in print and multimedia, supporting their work financially, and supplying skilled volunteers to teach English and write grant proposals and reports. This has directly resulted in over $2.5 million in grant funding channeled directly to our partner projects. Such funding has had a huge impact on efficient grassroots organizations that provide a range of direct services including housing, vocational training, microcredit lending, scholarships, and other assistance to sex workers, destitute peasants, and street children. Aimed at the root causes of trafficking, this approach has been effective in reducing the vulnerability of high-risk populations by giving them training and long-term economic options. I'm excited by the success of these programs, which we have tested for scalability, and I plan to share the promising practices with organizations outside of our immediate network with dedicated funding in the pipeline for this purpose. 2. Our influence reframing the debate on human trafficking. PHT has been influential in reframing the debate on human trafficking in constructive ways. Anti-trafficking discussions used to be dominated largely by organizations who focused on rescuing and converting trafficking victims who frequently ended up re-trafficked due to their untenable economic circumstances, indebtedness, and a lack of skills or legal status. Gradually, the debate has shifted towards prevention and recognition of the need for and the creation of safety nets in the form of economic opportunities for those at highest risk of trafficking. President Obama issued a proclamation naming January National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month. While we at PHT cannot take full credit for this shift, we're encouraged that our approach is finally being recognized and supported. The success of our organization since 1999 is no doubt attributable to focusing international attention on the root causes of human trafficking and galvanizing support for locally driven, sustainable solutions, as our humanity is inextricably linked and our liberation is bound together with theirs. We've had difficulty negotiating the politics of the anti-trafficking movement and the organizational competitiveness for exposure, funding, and surprisingly, victims to serve. We've been unable to expand our programs like other organizations have achieved due to a lack of deep-pocketed donors and networks. Due to a lack of resources, we've been unable to hire a full-time staff. Our staff presently consists of volunteers offering pro bono services of all kinds. With additional resources, we would launch our platform, Rapid Report and Response, or R3. Two major problems in the anti-trafficking field at the moment are a lack of data to quantify and track the problem in the US and Thailand. The second is that traffickers use technology every day to outsmart law enforcement, nonprofit organizations, government agencies, and concerned citizens around the world. If traffickers can use technology to run their illegal business, why can't we use it for good, to thwart them and prevent human trafficking? We will build a database that will accurately assess the scope of human trafficking in the United States and Thailand, and in turn help government agencies allocate resources effectively. This will be the first time technology will be used in such an aggressive way to stop this heinous crime. Our technology can also be used to collect data on related criminal activity. The key growth drivers are the number of agencies that buy or rent our data and the additional services required to analyze that data. These services include predictive modeling, data mining, and data management. Data is the heart of our product. We have a web platform to collect data and are building a database of prior cases to understand where human trafficking has occurred in order to predict where it is likely to occur in the future. Our database and technology ultimately will decrease human trafficking. It will also help NGOs and law enforcement, 1, to focus their limited resources on particular geographic areas and limit duplication of efforts. 2, it will raise public awareness about the scale and geographic concentration of human trafficking. 3, it will create a factual, verifiable history of cases and their resolution, which does not currently exist in the United States. And 4, ultimately, to understand patterns and develop real-time response capabilities. We also believe that our product can lead to unprecedented levels of community collaboration and empowerment on this issue. We could reach out more to young activists and future careerists in human rights work. We could create curriculum for middle and high school students to study the issues in conjunction with their social and history studies at school. We could create syllabi for colleges who want to teach or have us teach their students to guide them in their research, start their careers in human rights, which encompasses more than just human trafficking. PHT could also launch the second phase of a successful pilot project with one of our partner organizations working along the Thai-Burma border to prevent human trafficking. This gap exists because prevention is not a priority for many organizations, and they do not have the extensive contacts and partners in the field to implement such long-term projects. The proposed project is modeled on the Population and Community Development Association's Positive Partnership Program in Thailand, which addresses both the income opportunities and the reduction of discrimination for people living with and affected by HIV/AIDS. The initial project was launched in 2002 with pilot funding from UNAIDS and was continued as a 3-year comprehensive program with funding from Pfizer. This project responds to their needs and it prevents the trafficking of at-risk populations. Ultimately, the only cure for trafficking is prevention. In Thailand, we have seen that by providing access to education and local income opportunities, women are at much lower risk of being exploited. In the proposed project, participant pairs will choose a business venture from a variety of income-generating activities, and the staff will provide related skills and business training. Our partner organizations work closely with health officials, and many of the community-based activities are undertaken at local clinics. Throughout the project, the organization will hold seminars and training sessions for healthcare and social workers, doctors, and nurses from local and district hospitals and local health centers. These sessions are designed to provide basic information on HIV/AIDS and healthcare management. Here are the 3 components of the proposed project. Component 1, Trafficking Prevention. Part A, for families in need. A child is still in school, and the goal would be to provide an income source for families so they do not end a child's education to provide additional income for the family. Part B, for families in need. A child has already left school. The goal would be to provide an economic alternative for girls, preventing them from being trafficked. Component 2, Trafficked Individuals. The goal would be to provide trafficked individuals with an option to their current situation. Component 3, Education and setting up of youth banks. The goal is to educate and provide income so youth can learn about business initiatives and thus will stay in villages and not migrate to cities to earn an income. The organization's Research and Evaluation Division will conduct project evaluations. A combination of surveys and loan repayment measures will be used to monitor the program's success. Prior to program initiation, community members in the project implementation area will be surveyed on their knowledge of HIV/AIDS, sex and labor trafficking, and associated risks. This survey will also gauge the community's level of acceptance of these individuals. They will be asked to complete Bamboo Ladder surveys. The Bamboo Ladder survey is a monitoring and evaluation concept that is unique to the organization. It is a 10-step level rating tool that measures effectiveness of projects that involve life improvement and changing mindsets. Throughout program implementation, they will be evaluated monthly on changes in their social and economic condition and mental and physical health. Success of the project will be determined by the at-risk individuals being able to sustain themselves without resorting to sex work or labor exploitation. 1 year after the program initiation, the community members will be surveyed again on their knowledge of HIV/AIDS and sex and labor trafficking and risks in order to evaluate program success. Will you join us in our effort to prevent human trafficking?